Welcome to our Breaking the Stigma monthly support group. We are so excited to have Austin Forkner here as our guest speaker. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kylie Cisneros, and we have some wonderful people here with us that are helping facilitate this conversation. We have mental health professionals, medical professionals, and we want to keep this a safe, loving space where we can learn from Austin's experiences and try to get some key takeaways today. So our medical disclaimer, I just want to go over some best practices. If you are in crisis or think that you may have an emergency, please call 911 immediately. If you are having suicidal thoughts, there's a number right here. You can take a picture of this slide if you are wanting to do that, if you are needing it. This will take you to a skilled, trained counselor at a crisis center in your area at any time. If you're located outside of the United States, please call your local emergency line immediately. So we have our mediator intros. So like I said, I introduce myself as Kylie, and I'd like to open this up for our other mediators to introduce themselves.
Hi there, my name is Cassie Thibodeau. I'm a registered nurse out of the state of Maine, and my role tonight is going to be keeping an eye on the chat box. So if you'd prefer to type your questions or comments in the chat, I will be keeping an eye on it, and I'm happy to pose those questions to the applicable person. And that is me. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, my name is Andrea Lieb. I'm the director and founder of On Track School and partner with Road to Recovery in presenting this mental health initiative with the intention of breaking the stigma. So I'm here to support Kylie and Cassie and the program, and I'm so glad to have Austin here tonight too. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Hi, I'm Lori. I'm with Road to Recovery. And I'll be here running IT if there's any issues, or just here supporting the initiative that we are so excited to be able to bring to the community with the support of these amazing clinical professionals and admin roles. So thank you.
Thank you. And a little bit about myself. I've worked as a behavioral counselor for children and adolescents, and I'm also a current learning coach at On Track School. So I love being able to have my passion of working with children and mental health, and motocross industry is something I'm also very passionate about. So today we're discussing mental health. Obviously, we are here to break the stigma, and we are so excited to have Austin help us do that today. We have chat in breakout rooms. If you are wanting to talk to one of our mediators one-on-one, then please let us know in the chat box and we can set that up for you. Our monthly support group topic is Reset Your Mind. So we will, after we get through these slides, we're going to open this discussion up. This will go on for about an hour, and there will be some time for Q&As. So let's talk about what is mental health. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we feel, how we think, how we act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. Over the course of your life, if you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and behavior could be affected, and many factors contribute to mental health problems, including biological factors such as genes or brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or abuse, and family history of mental health problems. The core foundational components of mental health: improved mental health understanding to reduce stigma and promote early help seeking, a focus on athlete development and skill acquisition to help attain these goals, access to mental health resources, screening, and feedback. And the purpose of these foundational components is to enhance awareness of the importance of athlete well-being. This in turn addresses health and safety responsibilities towards athletes' overall well-being in the context of sport-related stressors. Here is a page that you can take a picture of, save this. We have the Road to Recovery hotline. We have our national hotline number listed. And there's a text line, so there's help. Please take advantage of these resources if you are in need. Just a reminder, this is a safe space, so we seek to create a stigma-free zone. That is what we are here doing today, where anyone joining can have access to a compassionate, judgment-free space to share, listen, and learn about all things mental health. The goal is to provide multiple platforms for mental health education, resources, and train members to listen when needed. Discrimination and disruption of others will not be tolerated, so please be respectful of others by showing politeness and kindness. All right, so the chat box is open. So I'd love to get to know a little bit about who our audience is. So if you feel comfortable, please enter the below information into the chat box. This gives us a better understanding of everyone, and we can create a cohesive flow for this meeting. So if you want to tell us where you're from, are you here for yourself or for your child? Maybe your age, if you're comfortable with that. Feel free to type that in the chat box. For the breakout rooms, if you would like to discuss a topic one-on-one with a mediator via video, in the chat box, please request the breakout room session to any or a specific mediator, and they will create that room and add you. All right, so we have Maine, Oklahoma, Florida. I'm in Florida as well. North Carolina, 2 boys. Virginia, awesome. So we have people from all over. It's great to see this. All right, so we have Austin Forkner here, obviously, and we are so grateful to have you, Austin. I want to say that for me, I have obviously been a fan of you and your career for a long time, but seeing your recent Instagram post after your injury, where you were really just vulnerable and, you know, showing some raw emotion, I think I can speak for all of us here. Our hearts broke when we saw that crash. It was obviously awful for you and for everyone to see that, because we know how hard you've been working. But to see you be open and address, you know, that you were struggling with that and that this was a tough one for you. Can you take us to that moment and elaborate a little bit of how you were feeling in that moment?
The moment when, like, whenever I made that video.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I feel like it's better to like make a video like that instead of just type something, because like I mean, you guys just said I got a lot of positive feedback from it because people could sense my emotions and how I was feeling and everything just from my voice, basically, and my attitude and just everything that you could see throughout the video. So I basically just sat down and I got the okay from Cowie or whoever it was that, hey, you can release what basically is, you can release a statement basically, or whatever you want to do as far as what's wrong. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll just, and I was like, okay, babe, can you come here and can you film me? And that's just, I'm just going to talk. And it wasn't really, it took about probably 3 tries just for the intro that I wanted. But like I said, whenever I get talking about something, then it just flowed. So it was just kind of, then once I got into it, I was just, it just, you know, everything came out. And I hadn't really, I mean, I'd talked to Riley and stuff about it. There wasn't a lot to say, I guess, to everybody in my personal kind of like little circle that I had. I mean, it was kind of we all knew what the problem was. So there wasn't really a lot to talk about. So that was kind of my first time, I guess, really explaining what was wrong, and kind of just, it was kind of my first time of backtracking as far as I was getting information as it was coming to me. Obviously I went to the hospital and stuff and they did x-rays. Okay, we think this might be what's wrong, but you need to get an MRI. Okay, got an MRI, got that back. There was kind of that whole like, but then that was my first time kind of running back through everything as it happened, basically explaining the crash, then what happened and what the obviously result was. So I mean, it was just, that's just how I was feeling at that time. I don't know if I just posted it and I got a lot of positive feedback, which was really good. But yeah, I mean, that was just raw emotion, how I was feeling at that time. So I think you can pretty much sense it that I was super, super sad, really.
Yeah. I think that it was one of the first times that I've seen a racer who is currently still racing, not a retired racer, show that emotion. And I love that. And I don't love that you were feeling that, but I love that you're opening up this conversation for people and for, especially for kids, for these, you know, young athletes who are coming up in this sport, who can see that someone that they look up to feels the same way that they do. You know, we have these kids who, you know, my son races and they're not on the same level that you are in, but for a child, what they're experiencing feels like the greatest thing that's happening. You know, they can't even compare it to what it would be like on a professional level, but having an injury and then having those emotions and working so hard for something and then feeling, you know, that moment of just kind of a loss. I think that was so big of you, and I was really impressed when I saw that. So I think that Instagram post alone was huge to break the stigma, and that's what we're here to do today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I what you just said, kind of that was a huge thing that happened throughout the process. Because right after that, to be honest, it was so weird because this is just, I don't know why I don't know exactly why, but whenever I posted that video, how positive everybody was, it actually made me feel worse, to be honest, because at that time, and this happens, you can ask pretty much every pro motocross rider, that we're all the same. I mean, after a big injury like that, we're like, especially repeated ones, I'm done and I'm over this.
Yeah.
I'm not riding again. This is stupid. And I knew that at the time. I was like, yeah, I don't want to even look at a dirt bike right now. And I was like, am I done racing? No, I highly doubt it. But am I going to talk like I am and like I hate dirt bikes and everything right now? Yeah, I am. So I'm aware of that. I've been aware of that for years now, that after every injury, we're all the same. I'm done. I'm over this. I'm going to find something else to do. We never do, we never do. But that's what I was feeling. And with how positive everybody was, it made me feel terrible, because I was even having those thoughts. Everybody was so supportive. Everybody was so, you'll be back. We believe in you. When, blah, blah, blah. Like all of the super positive things everybody was saying.
Yeah.
Made me feel worse, because then I was like, man, I'm terrible for even thinking those thoughts. And this one kid, I have this one kid, he commented on something, and I think it was a comment. It may have been a DM, but this one kid, I was doing okay, like reading some comments and stuff, until I saw this one kid's post, and he said, gave me this long story. Hey man, so we went to Loretta's. It was my first year trying for Loretta's, and we went there this year. Or my family moved from Colorado to Texas for like 3 months so I could train and get ready. It was my first time going to Loretta's, all this stuff. Get to Loretta's, I guess first moto, he like got, from swimming in the creek, he got like an ear infection, so it threw him off for his first moto, something that wasn't right. Second moto, he got a flat tire. And third moto, he dabbed his foot on the sight lap, and he said he felt a pop, and he did the same thing. He tore his ACL on the sight lap. So he had terrible Loretta's basically. And he said, dude, my family moved from Colorado to Texas and all this stuff. And it was this big, long thing about how much basically him and his family sacrificed to get there. And then he had a terrible 3 motos Loretta's. And he was like, so I kind of know like how you feel. Like I kind of know what you're going through. But he was like, but the thing that I told myself whenever I got hurt is that if you can do it, then I can too. And sorry, I don't know what happened. He said, but if you can do it, then I know I can too. And that was so heavy. Like at the time, it made me like break down. I started crying and everything just right here in the living room. Like it was, I don't know. It made me just break down because I was just like, man, I feel terrible about myself because I'm literally having so much of an effect on that. I'm affecting these other kids' lives, basically. And now I'm debating not even riding a dirt bike again, but based on these kids are making decisions based on things that I do. And so it made me feel, that's what I was saying. It made me feel worse because I was like, man, all these people are telling me that they look up to me and they believe in me, and these kids are looking up to me. And if I quit, they probably will too, and stuff. I'm essentially affecting some of these kids' lives based on my decision, whatever I decide to do after, post injury, whatever. And that made me feel terrible just because I knew that the thoughts I was having weren't, they weren't terrible, and I was never going to quit or anything. It was just those were the thoughts that were going through my mind at the time. And so that made me feel really bad and really, that was probably the worst moment was right then, which it shouldn't have been because everybody was so positive and so reassuring. But that made me feel worse because of the thoughts that I was having. So that's what I was saying. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's just, I had to say that based on you were talking about kids and stuff, and how then that was the biggest, I don't know, honestly. I don't even know.
A little bit.
Moment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's it changed my perspective. And that's what, and then another one I screenshotted said that, which is kind of connected. It said that, hey man, like champions, don't worry. Like not all champions are based on, how many number one plates they have in their room. And they were like, you coming back from injury after injury after injury is just as motivating to some people as it is to win a championship or win a race or whatever. That's probably more motivating to some people.
Exactly.
To see you come back from an injury or a hard time or a rough time, because everybody can relate to coming back from being down in some way, shape, or form. So that's those comments, I guess at the time they made me feel worse about myself. But after I kind of got through that little bit of emotion, then it was, then those comments, I actually have them screenshotted and I remember them often just because those kind of those really helped.
I love that. And I hope those kids are listening or will watch this back later on the video and see that, they had an impact on you too, because that probably means a lot to them. I'm sure they had no idea. But yeah, exactly. I've been meaning to DM that kid. Somebody asked me if I messaged that kid back, and I was like, honestly, one of these days I need to message him back and be like, hey man, like hope you're doing better from your knee, but just so you know, like your message kind of actually did help me in some sort of way. I don't know if you intended that. You probably didn't even know I would read it because I was getting so many, but I did. And your comment or your DM or whatever was actually did help a lot. So yeah, it sounds like it changed your whole course of healing as well.
Yeah.
It obviously, like you said, it made you feel worse at the moment, but I think that was a natural stage. We talk about when there's an injury, you kind of go through these stages of grief, and that stage would have probably happened, without the comment anyways, but that helped you get out of that darker stage faster, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like I everybody's always saying, oh, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And I used to think that way, and that may still be the case. I don't know, to be honest, of why things happen ways that they happen. But it made me kind of think like, okay, I look back on there's nothing I'm gonna change. There's nothing I'm gonna learn from watching the wreck, like the one with me and when me and Jet got together last year. There's nothing I could have done different. It was, me and RJ came together a little bit. I moved over 2 feet over on the start, and those guys came over. It was a racing incident. That doesn't change. There's not any in the past I've had crashes or injuries where maybe I was doing something stupid. Maybe I was trying this huge jump that nobody else was doing. Okay, that I can learn from that. I can say, okay, don't take risks that big next time. Okay, fair enough. There's things to learn from some of my crashes in the past where this one there wasn't, I'm like, everybody's, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. Okay, well, what was the reason? So that's my method of thinking is, okay, after something like that happens, after I have a bad race, after I do whatever, it's always, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I be better? So that's just, as I'm sure that's just from being an athlete and being wired the way I'm wired, but that's just how I think. So my thought process is, what did I do wrong? Well, I got a bad start. That not even a bad start. Those guys just got a little bit of a better start than me. So I'm never going to get a bad start again. No, I'm going to get more bad starts. That's just like, it was just a racing incident. So there's not a lot to learn from that. So, but then whenever I started seeing that, and actually I didn't even realize it until somebody pointed it out to me, was that, okay, well, maybe I'm something that I've kind of am noticing, I guess, or maybe what is the reason is maybe I'm seeing that, you know, that there is, I guess, because as dirt bike riders, we think, okay, if I'm not winning a championship, if I'm not winning races, we're failing. Essentially, we're not doing our job, we're failing. Whereas now it's almost like, okay, I might not have won a championship yet. I've still won a lot of races, but I might not have won a championship, which is the ultimate goal. But people are still considering me a champion. You know, people are still, what I'm doing now and coming back from the injuries and the obstacles and stuff that I'm doing now might be affecting some people's life in a more positive way than if I was a champion, you know? So I don't know if that's the reason. Like I said, I don't know why things happen or if there really is a reason for everything or whatever, but that did, if there was a reason, and because that had such a heavy impact on me, it makes me think that, you know, maybe that was the reason, maybe that it would show me that through this, that I'm not, you know, a failure. And it's not like I just, you know, look down on myself all the time, but it's like, it's the honest truth. It's like, unless I'm winning a championship, we're not doing our job, as that is what we're getting paid to do. I won a lot of races as an amateur. I'm paid really well coming out of amateurs because everybody thought I should be the next one to win a championship. And I haven't. I've been injured a lot. I've missed a lot of racing. So it makes it, I guess, maybe a little bit more like, okay, well, maybe it helps me be more, you know, satisfied or okay with my life, whether I do win a race or not, which, I mean, that I shouldn't base my happiness in life off of whether I win a dirt bike race or not. But as dirt bike racers, as what we do, we definitely do that a little bit too much. I mean, but maybe that was the reason why, but that was just, figured I would share that.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I will say, like you said, some of these, you know, what was the reason? Because you have absolutely had, you know, a couple, maybe, you know, more than a few crashes where it definitely was not in your hands. It was out of your control. It was a freak accident. And I think those are the ones that are really hard to mentally get yourself through, because you want to be able to fix it and, you know, kind of regroup and say, okay, well, what can I do different? But when it's something like that, you're kind of stuck, you know, you don't know what you can do differently. So I will say, prior to your crash at Anaheim, just in qualifying, you were on fire and amazing. And you've had some significant injuries prior to that, where coming back that strong and on that level, that is inspiring, because I don't think that there's enough emphasis on coming back from a crash mentally, because you're putting in the work on, you know, your racecraft, you're eating right, you're doing all the work. But people really kind of gloss over the fact that when you have an injury or a crash, you're going to have that mental block. And you showed that you were pushing through that, and more than I think that most racers can do. And I would love personally, and I'm sure everybody here would love to know how you're able to do that. How, you know, you were able to be, as if the injuries never happened. And that's why I know that you can come back from this if you choose to, because you've done it. And you don't seem to have that that hesitation as much. You know, you still are smart. This was a crash that was not you messing up, you know. So it's different. But I would love to know, you know, kind of how you get yourself to that mental strength, because, you know, is it your support system? Is it something that you do to kind of get yourself through those hard moments that help you come back stronger?
So I guess that it's really the hardest part is for me anyway is but the moments right after it happens, and there's a few moments between on the recovery process, but once I'm able to start doing rehab or doing whatever, if I have to have surgery, once I have the surgery, and then there's no, and my wife does the same thing. She tells me that she gives me, I believe it's 3 days. She gives me 3 days to be down and to be mad and to be sad and to lay around and cry and be mad at her for no reason. And that she gives me like 3 days to do that. And then she says, okay, after those 3 days, you're gonna, like, we're not gonna be thinking like this anymore. We're not gonna be thinking all the negative thoughts that I was talking about, oh, I'm done, I'm over this, I'm whatever, I'm gonna find something else to do. Because if you are actually, if that's what you're gonna do in those 3 days, we're finding something else to start doing. Like you're gonna take those 3 days, and after those 3 days, it's done. Like, we're on to the next. We're on to, when am I going to get surgery? We're on to, where am I going to get surgery? We're on to figuring all that stuff out. And then from there, then it's something else every week. You know, okay, can I start rehab this week? Okay, can I do icing? Can I do hyperbaric chamber? Can I do all this stuff? So it's, once I can get to that point, for me, it's easier, because then it's like, okay, I have one thing to think about. All I think about is getting better. What am I going to wake up and do every day? Anything that's going to help me get better, whether it be, I'm not going to do rehab every single day, but on those days I don't do rehab, I can ice. I can do little exercises at home. I can't work out my lower body, but I can do upper body. Let's figure out what I can do on a cardio machine. I can't really do a rower, but I have one of those skier machines. I can sit in a chair. That's what I learned with my first one that I did. I can do cardio. That's about the only way I can do cardio, is I can sit in a chair in front of the skier machine and just ski like that. Or I can do an arm bike, which those are kind of odd to come by, but I've seen them before and I've used them before. So there's all that stuff, and yeah, it's kind of oddball stuff, but once I can get to that point, then it's one focus. It's okay. This is what I need to, you know, I have one focus right now. It's not all the negative stuff, all that stuff, it's out. And it's just, this is what, you know, this is what we got to do now. And I don't know exactly where some of that stuff comes from. It might come from how I was raised, like on a farm, obviously. And there they have pretty, like my grandparents and stuff, they're pretty old school way of thinking. They're pretty straight to the point. You know, if you want something, work for it. If you, no handouts, we're not giving any handouts. I know a bunch of people always say that I was spoon fed all my whole life. No, I wasn't at all. Like, anything that I wanted, I scraped hog pens. I cleaned after pigs and cows my whole life growing up to make $20. That's what I would do. I would work for like 5 hours to make $20 so I could go buy a scooter or something like that. It was never, so I don't know if it's maybe just that old mentality of like, well, what's my goal? My goal, even after I get hurt, I still want to win races and win a championship. And that's what I'm getting paid to do. So I still have to do my job. So, okay, well then I have to do that. Like there's times when I think like, yeah, would it be easier mentally and maybe, and definitely physically, if I just went and got a normal 9 to 5 or did something else? Yeah, it would be, but I don't know anything else. Like I went to school until I was 6th grade. So I'm, you know, some of these guys that were homeschooled from whenever they were like literally like, but by the time they were on 50s, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you should still live kind of a normal life while you're young. But I'm pretty, you know, I've been to school. I wouldn't say I'm the smartest, but I would say I've got some decent, smarts. And I could. My mom always says this to me. She said, if you want to do something else, you could. But I'm like, yes, but what? And what is going to give me I've been doing this now for 21 years. What's going to give me the same thing? Like, I wake up and I do this every single day, every day. Everybody says, oh, like, this is a 24/7 job every single day, whether I'm like what I'm eating that night, whether it's a special time that I have to go to bed, whether it's all the my medicines that I take for my thyroid that I really don't even need, but because I'm an athlete and I abuse my body as much as I do, I need to take them. All my supplements, there's so many things that you have to do every single day that makes this job pretty much a 24/7 job. So, I don't know. Like I was saying, I don't know if it has to do with how I was raised or exactly maybe just how my brain's programmed on how I'm able to kind of come back from this stuff. But I think a lot of it comes from my trainer also, Robbie Raynard. He's been through a lot. Like, he's probably one of the most like gnarly dudes I've ever been around as far as injuries and as far as how to deal with injuries. He's the best guy to have in my corner, to be honest. He's the best guy I could have for dealing with injuries. He's really smart about it. He's been there, done that. He's came back from ACLs. He's walked out of ACL surgery. He's came back to on the bike in 6 weeks from an ACL. And like, no, it's not smart, but that's why he retore it. But he's like, I've done everything. I've done the proper rehab. I've not done the proper rehab. I've done all the wrong things. So that's why I'm trying to help you do all the right things, basically. So, and he's really, like, mentally strong, I feel. He is a pretty straightforward attitude, as in, look, like he believes in me. He knows what I can do. And there's never a thought in his mind that I can't do it, or I can't do this or overcome this or that. And honestly, just from being around him, like everybody says, surround yourself with people who are going to make you better, or who you surround yourself with is going to have an effect on you. That mentality and that mental kind of mindset has worn off on me. And it's weird because I see myself becoming more like him I see myself kind of acting and reacting to things a little bit more like him all the time. So, yeah, I think it is who you surround yourself with. I have, good people in my corner, supportive people. I have him, who is really mentally strong. My in the gym trainer, Charles Dow, here in California, really, it was a few days after he was like, hey, you want to come to the gym? And I was not going to say no. Yeah, let's go to the gym. And I was like, do I necessarily want to go to the gym? No, but getting back in the gym is going to, exactly like I said, once I get back to doing normal things, it helps the recovery process go by quicker. Things like that definitely help. So, and he knows that. So we got back in the gym, and now I'm going like 2 or 3 days a week when I'm not doing rehab on my knee, and just doing upper body stuff. And so, yeah, I think it helps having a supportive system around me. If it was just me, if I was living in this house by myself, I would probably just wallow in self-pity and, but having people around you that they don't let you get to that point. They don't let you get down like that. They see me get down like that. And maybe for a few days, kind of like I was saying, maybe for a few days or the first week, they reach out and make sure I'm good, but we don't really talk a whole lot. And then after that, then we kind of it's like, okay, you've had some depression time, you've had some time to be upset. Let's turn that depression into fuel, and let's put that energy that you were using to be depressed, because it does take energy to be depressed. Yes. When you lay around all day, it takes energy to be sad. And when you lay around all day and don't do anything, and you're tired and want to go to bed at the end of the day, that should say something. And so let's take that energy of being depressed and let's put it into fuel, and let's get you back. Let's use it to any day that you wake up and you're sitting in traffic at 8 a.m. on your way to on your way to do rehab and you're like, man, why am I doing this? Well, I got to put the energy into that. It's better than being depressed, basically. So, that's it. Definitely the support system around you helps. And also just, you learn a lot about yourself too, whenever you're in these positions. And I've been through this now multiple times. I start to learn a lot about myself, and I start to recognize ways that I think, and get like kind of allow myself time to think these ways. And then I get to a point where I cut the cord. I'm like, okay, I've had enough time to be thinking these things. And obviously that's what I was saying. My wife and everybody around me definitely helps. But I recognize a lot of that stuff after going through injury after injury. Now I should. I recognize a lot of those things now. And I kind of know when to shut it down, and when to get things going again, and when it's okay to feel the way that I'm feeling, and it's okay to have the thoughts that I'm thinking of. As long as obviously they don't get out of control. And whenever they start to get out of control, or whenever they start to get, they start to cloud out, decision making, or just start to just make a negative hole in your brain. Yeah, exactly. That's whenever you have to shut them off, and you have to say, okay, no, I'm going to take this energy. I'm going to go to the gym. Whether I go to the gym and I do curls for 5 minutes and leave, I got to do something. I need to get out of the house. I need to quit just sitting here and letting these things go through my head. So that's helped. And I did see a therapist a couple of years ago, and he helped a lot just by helping me to stay present, because a lot of the times whenever I get deep into injuries, I think, oh, what am I going to do in the future? Okay, how could I have fixed the past? And it's like, we don't have control over that. We don't have control over, you can't fix the past, first off. And over the future, I mean, as of right now, do what I can do, and whatever happens, or, that's, you just got to kind of, hey,
take it day
live
by
in the
day.
moment. Yeah, exactly. Taking it day by day, be present in the moment, do what I can in the moment, and don't waste that unnecessary energy thinking about worrying about the future or the past, when right now I can't change either of them. So I can't do anything for the future or the past. All I can affect is right now. So that's what he helped me out with a few things, but that was one of the things that stuck with me was keeping myself present and in the moment, and not just be worrying about, man, getting back on the bike. I'm going to be so stressed out, and I'm going to be so, I remember my other knee didn't feel good for like 8 months or whatever after, all that stuff. Wasting energy on that's just not really necessary. So I guess it's so hard to explain how to do these things unless you've done these things, or unless you've been through at least something similar. Then you could say, oh, okay, I kind of know what you mean. Then it's like, okay, then, but trying to explain some of this stuff, if you were to explain this to me whenever I had hardly even had an injury, I kind of would have been like, okay, I don't really understand, or I don't like, why would I think like that? Like, that doesn't really make sense. But then when you get there, it's like, oh, well, I mean, these are the thoughts that are happening. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because I've been doing it. I guess the original question was how have I become mentally strong to take this on? I guess, I don't know, a combination of all the stuff that I talked about, I guess.
That's great. We have a hand up.
Hey, Austin, Doc Wadner, how you doing? So I want to applaud you first for coming on. We've been doing this a while, and it's amazing when you get the insight right from the writer or from anybody in the industry. But I think it makes it even more relevant the fact that you're up and coming now, not coming, you're an active guy right now, you're present, and it really gives kind of relevance to the program. We've had a lot of speakers on in the past that were always from years ago problems or things that relatively frequent, but this is now. And so I think it's really going to help a lot with people that can say, hey, Austin really told us about this, and this is what's really going on. And it's not some old guy like me and everybody else, that are just past experience. So I think it's really important, and from us at the races, we hate to see you guys hurt. We kind of share your sad parts and your good parts, but we hate to see it. So it's good to see that you got a good outlook on how it's going to happen. And obviously those 3 days make sense, because when I broke my hip earlier this year, that I had probably 5 days that my wife was giving me before she was yelling at me to get over it, type of thing. So I can
Yeah.
understand that. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Good. Well, good. I hope that's what I was saying is like, whenever you can relate to people, or like that little kid that sent me that message, that he could relate to me, and that he knew he watched me go through that, and I came back and I still won races, or I still came back and was just as good on the bike as when I left, or better, that he could do it too. So that's just the relatableness, I guess, to a lot of the things is, I think is that it's definitely not, doesn't hurt anything for sure.
Well, I'd like to open this up to if anybody has any other questions. Go ahead and feel free to put your hand up, interrupt us at any time. But I do have to say that exactly what you were just saying, being relevant right now, this is a current ongoing thing that with you, you're experiencing this. It's really huge for everybody in this sport, and especially, these kids and other riders that, you are probably racing against, feeling the same way, but haven't spoken up about this. And I'd hope that maybe this gives them an opportunity to allow themselves to feel these feelings, and to know that that really is the first step to getting themselves out of it. You have to acknowledge how you're feeling. You have to set these goals, like you were just saying, that's, these daily goals of getting yourself back to where you want to be. That's huge. And that's what's going to get you back to that point. So thank you for sharing that. Do we have any questions here? You have a hand up?
Oh, there we go. So just a question for you, Austin. Long-term prognosis and where you plan to be, in 2 months, 4 months. How do you feel about that?
2 months, that's another thing. Well, with this ACL, I kind of have an idea of what the gist of it is. Because I did it in 2019. A lot of my injuries kind of are reoccurring injuries. So at this point, there's not a lot that I haven't done, to be honest. So there's not a lot of big surprises nowadays, it seems like, with injuries. But 2 months, I just started walking, which is actually ahead of when I did my other one. So I think this one's going to be quicker than my other one, because my other one was 6 months on the day is whenever I rode again. From the day it happened to the day I rode again was exactly 6 months. I'm thinking this one's going to be closer to 5. That's what my surgeon said. And also I talked to G yesterday, who's my therapist, and he said I'm about 3 weeks ahead already. So I'm thinking it's going to be closer to 5, maybe even sooner. I don't know. It just depends. But in 2 months from now, I'll probably started cycling by then. And so it's kind of, the first month is kind of not really a lot of stuff, working a little bit of range of motion. The second month is being a little bit more aggressive with the range of motion and getting that full extension and bending of the knee back. And then it's the third month that you start kind of working into a little bit of strength stuff, but just really, really mild strength stuff, like cycling. That's not a lot of strength. It's low energy, low strength, but just over a long period of time, just by doing just a slow pace, easy bike ride. Start doing that stuff. And then by month 4, probably ish, is whenever you'll start doing like actual weights back in the gym, doing squats, doing leg extensions, stuff like that. So that's as far as recovery. It should be something like that, I would say. But the ACL is it's weird because it's like it gets weaker. It starts off, one of the strongest points of the ACL is like the day that they put it in. It's really strong right after surgery, because they took my hamstring, all that stuff. Yep. All that stuff still has, yep. I'm looking at Bodner. Yep. All that stuff still has, it's still got all the blood flow and everything in it. And then basically it dies. Essentially the hamstring dies, and your body's like, oh, this is your new ACL. Oh, we got to start pumping blood into this thing, and we got to start bringing this thing back to life. So then it starts basically bringing it back to life. So it's kind of the 2.5 to 3 month mark is kind of the danger zone, as far as like, it starts to feel good at that point. but you have to not be too aggressive with surgery or with rehab or with, being back in the gym or doing that stuff. You have to wait a little bit longer because that's like the easiest time to stretch it or re-tear it or whatever. So a lot of that. So it's just kind of this one's just a slow burner kind of. It's just like everything just takes weeks and weeks and weeks before you can it's just a long one. That's why these and like doing the rotator cuff in the shoulder, those are like kind of and moto, those are kind of like, you did that. Dang, that's a 6 monther. That's a season ender basically with one of those, because then once you get back, I mean, it's a couple months minimum back on the bike. I couldn't imagine going to race any sooner than 2 months after getting back on the bike. That would be minimum. So, yeah. I mean,
Can we
that's
have
just
everyone?
it's funny. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the answer. I appreciate
No,
that.
you're good. I
Yeah.
was just reminding everyone to mute because there was a little bit of some background
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah, you're good. No worries.
That's great.
Can
Well,
I
we
ask
look
a
forward to
question?
the recovery. Yes.
Aside from this, my name is Selena. I'm from Arizona. My son races. And aside from just your recovery, I was just curious on your normal training, day-to-day life and your mental day-to-day life, kind of what you do aside from when you're injured.
Yeah, so
Does that
like
make
normal,
sense?
just everyday mentality. Yeah. So like mentality.
Yeah. Do you do the same thing every day?
day-to-day
Do you do the
mentality.
same workout? Yeah.
So, I'll ride about 4 days a week. That's pretty typical. We all do somewhat similar schedules. It's just what kind of stuff we do in the schedule that differs, or what our trainers are having us do on those days. But I'll ride 4 days a week, and I'll do gym about 3 days a week, and then I'll do bike rides or runs about 3 to 4 of those days also, along with stretching, along with icing, hyperbaric chamber, cryotherapy, seeing my chiropractor, getting massages, along with all that stuff. So it's a lot, but that's kind of what a typical week is as far as like mindset on those weeks. It just, a lot of people get like coming into Supercross season, the whole preseason thing. I try to be pretty mellow on myself, really relaxing preseason. Even as it gets closer to the races, I saw it even with some people on my team this year. As we got closer to the races, people, you start to stress out, and you start to, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta do this different. No, like if you're not ready a week before the race, you're not ready. Like you gotta be like, this isn't like, we need to change all this stuff, get the bike right a week before the race. Well, you should have been getting the bike right like 4 weeks ago. Like everything, like it's time to go racing now. So that's but that's also just experience. I've been racing pro for like 6 years now or something like that. So that's just, I kind of know those emotions and know those things that go through my head. I used to get a lot more frustrated, definitely, a few years ago, whenever like during the week, if I wasn't the fastest guy at the track every single day, if I wasn't the fastest guy, I'd be so frustrated, and I would be so like, it would make me so mad, and I would get hurt sometimes in practice because I'm trying to be the fastest guy. Like I have to be the fastest guy at all times. And I'm not saying we still don't do that. We definitely push each other at the track every day, because we always want to be the fastest guy. But it's like, look, if this guy's a little bit faster than me today, who cares? Everything's fine. Like it's not the end of the world. So I guess being okay, and that's, I feel like, has just come from injuries and maturity, is that like, look, you're not going to win races by winning you're not going to win anything, you're not going to make any money from being the fastest at the track today. It's just, and there's a fine line between that and being, not caring enough, because I've definitely seen both of those. Have been like, if I'm getting hurt in practice, I'm just not going to care about practice. I'm going to just, who cares? And then, okay, but then I'm not pushing myself enough to be good at the races. So there's that fine line that you kind of have to find in there of how hard to push without pushing too hard and taking unnecessary risks, that could end up getting you hurt or, whatever. So that's the biggest thing I feel like I've had to learn throughout the years, I guess, is finding that happy middle ground of, what's pushing hard enough to where I'm getting good, like in physical shape, obviously, and riding hard enough to where I'm at the end of the moto, I'm tired, because that's how you're going to beat the races. At the end of the moto, you're done. So at the end of the moto in practice, I'm tired, but I'm not doing unnecessary things, on the track that would, just increase chances of injury or whatever.
Can I ask just one more part to that? What about your mental aspect as far as, do you do visualization, meditation?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I definitely visualize but I do it in a way that's not like, you're not going to see me and be like, oh, he's deep in thought. He's meditating right now. I don't really do it like that. It's just like, when I'm at the gate, like, I'm thinking about what I'm visualizing being first at the first turn. I'm visualizing the exact how I want to release the clutch and everything out of the gate. I'm visualizing all that stuff. Maybe even a little bit too much sometimes, to where I'm like, I start spinning myself out, and I'm like, look, the gate hasn't even dropped. Like, let's focus on getting out of the gate first and get to the first turn, and then reassess the situation. If I'm in the lead, okay, we'll go from there. If I need to pass people, well, then it's pretty simple. I need to get to the front. So I try not to stress myself out too much about stuff like that. But yes, I definitely do visualize stuff. But I do it in a way that I feel like is so muscle memory at this point. That's why a lot of the things, sometimes it's hard for me to sometimes, I've been getting better, but it's hard sometimes for me to train people or train kids, like in riding, because sometimes I say stuff. I'm like, okay, we'll do this, or yeah. So just see yourself, picture yourself jumping it. They're like, well, how do I do that? And it's like, oh, well, I don't exactly know. Hold on, give me a second to think about how to explain going about thinking. But all this stuff, like I said, I've been riding dirt bike since I was 3 years old. So all this stuff is just literally an afterthought. Like, if I have to, at this level with what we're doing, if you have to think about stuff, it's too late. If you have to think, oh, I want to take that rut, it's too late. You're already in the rut you didn't want to go in, and you're already, whatever's happening is happening. You have to already know, like, everything just has to be a reaction. You have to just react to things and not have to think, then react to things. Everything just has to be an immediate reaction. So that's but that just comes with practice, and that just comes with the years of doing it, basically. So yeah, that's I guess the I hope that answers your question pretty well. That's just, I guess, kind of the visualizing part, and then just also the just mental toughness during the week. A lot of the stuff that I do these runs every now and then, and they're hard runs for like 45 minutes, like all out, as hard as I can go, for like 45 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever my trainer has me do. And there's not a point to them necessarily. He knows I can do it. It's not to make sure I'm in shape, because he knows I'm in shape. He watches me at the track and you're in shape. You can go win. It's just to up here. It's for up here. It's just to be like, oh, like, I'm a badass. Basically, that's why he straight up told me, that's why I have you do those, just so you know. So when you get done with those, and you gave it everything you could for that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, and you're dead at the end, that's why. So that after that, if you are 10 minutes into a 15-minute moto and you're tired, and you think about that, no, I can do it. I did that. I did that. So why can't I do this? That's why it's for mental toughness. Like, half the stuff that we do isn't necessarily only for physical, like physical fitness or for physical shape. It's for mental shape as well. Like, the mental game in this sport is so big. It's almost as big as being in shape, because if you're not in shape, but you're strong enough up here, then you can push through your body trying to shut down, trying to say, no more, I'm tired. You can push through that. So, so that's, it's important to do all that stuff. That's what's really important, I feel like, is getting those mental stressors and having to push through those during the week, so that whenever you get those at the race, then you're at least a little bit more prepared for them, you know?
Thank you for sharing that. We have a question in the chat box. Are there any other coping skills you use to handle the pressures of expectation of winning? Other than injuries you have struggled with, any other mental health concerns? Do you think writers or this industry are becoming more open to talking about mental health? Great questions.
Well, I'm hoping this helps with that, because
think it will, yeah.
mental health is definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing that's, I guess, probably overlooked in our sport, but it's not so, like, in this sport, it's easy to get down because there's one winner, and there's a lot of losers, and it's so easy to kind of fall into that. This sport is so different than team sports. You know, team sports, that's what people don't understand, is that team sports, this is so much different because it's you're on your own. When the gate drops, you are on your own. If you have a bum ankle, Patrick Mahomes, he had a bum ankle. Okay, he can throw. He doesn't have to run the ball a whole lot. He's got a good arm. He can use that. No, we don't have that. You're on your own. When the gate drops, you're on your own. You get a pit board from your mechanic once a lap. That's it. Like, it's not, if you're not right, there's no one else to blame. You know, you can, guys in the NFL, NBA, whatever, they can watch footage after a film and they can say, oh, look, you played a great game. But these guys, they didn't play that great, and you know, we lost or whatever. But look, you played good, so you're good. No, if we lose, it's on us. Everything is on us, whether we win or we lose. So the pressure, that pressure, I guess, was part of the question. The pressure is kind of, it's hard to explain the pressure unless you have, like, not played a team sport, unless you've done a solo sport, basically, which dirt bikes it is a team sport. I have a team, but when I'm out on the track, it's me. Everything I do on the track is up to me. So that's that kind of pressure of, you know, it being all on you is kind of, it is a lot at times, but I've never been, there's some types of, I guess, motocross kids who you are. There's some that I've had trainers where you do like a class with a bunch of trainers. And I've had some where, like, they straight up yell at you. Like, they're like you probably see videos of gym trainers, like, they're slapping them. Yeah. Like, yelling at them. I'm like, whoa, like, you don't have to yell at me. Just tell me what I'm doing wrong and I'll go fix it. Like, you don't have to yell at me. You don't have to be all aggressive. Just tell me what I'm doing wrong and I'll go fix it. It's not like, there's no reason to yell. Like, I've always been the type that I've put enough pressure on myself that anybody else trying to put more pressure on me, or anybody else trying to, you know, I don't know, yell at me or tell me to go harder, go faster, go. Like, I've told myself that all the comments, any negative comments I get, any negative things people say, oh, you're washed up. Oh, they're going to give your ride to somebody else in 2 years. Oh, they're going to, whatever the case may be. I've already thought about that. I was thinking about that when I was still laying on the track. Like, when I was laying on the track, when I was getting hauled back, do you know what was going through my mind? I was thinking about what am I going to do? Like, this is how many years of missing races? I'm out this whole season. The ride from the track in the back of the cart to the Alpine Star semi, the medic semi, was like, that's the longest ride in the world, because there's so many things going through my mind at that time. It's, oh my, what I knew what was wrong. I was 95% sure I tore my ACL whenever I dabbed my leg on the start. But so there's so many things going through my mind during that time. So, but I've always been one of the people I've never needed that. I've always put enough pressure on myself. So maybe because I've done that from a young age, that maybe I'm just pretty good at just dealing with pressure like that. Whereas maybe somebody that I don't know, maybe their parents were a little bit more into racing than they were. And in my opinion, you shouldn't need that. You should want, and you should you should want to do things that because you want to do them. You shouldn't need your mom or your dad yelling at you to do these things, or to, hey, like be yelling at you or threatening, oh, we're not gonna, we're selling the bikes if you don't get top 3 or if you don't win. Like, dude, like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
if your kid wants it and if he's good enough, he's gonna do it. That's what separates the men from the boys as you get older. That's the separator is like, okay, I want it. I'm going to do what it takes because that's what I want to do. Not because anybody else is yelling at me or they're telling me to do this or that. It's because I want to. So all the pressure, I mean, it does get a lot. It definitely does get a lot. But like I said, with the good support system and with me just being focused on what I can control that day, the pressure, I guess, doesn't seem as bad until obviously once you're on the gate. Whenever you're on the gate, there's no avoiding the pressure. There's no getting around it. There's whatever, 50,000 people there, whatever, however many people that are in stadiums, a lot. The pyro's going off. You're sitting on the gate. I've had my heart rate be like 150 beats sitting on the bike, sitting on the gate, doing nothing, just sitting there. And my heart rate's like 150, which is a lot. That's 150 is like a pretty decently fast jog for most people. Like that's really high, but that's just from nerves. That's just from stress. And that's just kind of what you, I guess, choose to do with those nerves and stress after that.
Well, thank you. And we want to be respectful of your time, obviously, but you have been such a great speaker. And I do think that this is going to help break the stigma, a huge step in the right direction, because it's not talked about enough in this sport. It's very much in the background. People don't want to be vulnerable and acknowledge how they're feeling. And I firmly believe that you can't get out of that dark place or move forward until you have acknowledged it or talked to someone in your corner about it, whether it is just, a girlfriend, a wife, a best friend, a trainer, someone, or a therapist. If you don't feel like you have someone that you can trust, even if you do have someone you trust, getting an outside opinion is an excellent thing to do. And so we're very grateful to have you here. We do have one hand up. Audrey.
Hi. So I'm actually 6 months post-op of ACL surgery. I crashed pretty much doing a Superman back in April, not on purpose, I promise. But so I'm 6 months out. I got a cadaver ACL, so that means that I'm most likely going to be cleared at 9 months. I'm kind of going through a lot mentally, like knowing that it's nearing the end and I'm going to be getting back into it this summer. So like, do you have any advice on knowing that it is strong enough to get back to it? It's just mental.
Yeah, no, it's not going to feel strong. I can promise you, whenever you get back on the bike,
Yeah.
It's not going to feel good at all. Mine didn't feel good. To be honest, mine didn't feel good for a year. It didn't feel like, here's the thing. I think it was because I was released from my doctor. I was released, like Robbie, he knows everything there is to know about ACLs. He's like, you're good. I could do one arm. I could jump up on a 2.5 foot tall box jump on one leg, sideways, landing every direction, and I was fine. My knee was good, but it was just up here. Like that's what it was. And I rode for probably 2 weeks without taking my foot off the bike. Like I would, and anytime I would dab my foot, it would, the scariest thing I could just picture in my head, my knee just popping just like that again. And so that was like the scariest thing. So it's kind of just knowing that, yeah, okay, my knee is good. But you definitely do want to take it easy for the first few weeks, the first month or whatever, and try to avoid dabbing it, because it is still, I read my report from my doctor the other day and it says full ACL maturity is a year. So it does take a year for your ACL to be fully back to, at least my surgery, or that's what my rehab notes said, that my full maturity of my ACL would be about a year. So it does take closer to a year to get, and obviously you can probably speed that up doing all the right things rehab wise and stuff, but it does take about that long before it is fully before it's fully, strong again. And also it takes you time to heal mentally, I feel like too. It's just to be able to be like, okay, I can dab my foot. I can do everything that I was doing as before, and my knee can take it. It's strong enough. It's not going to buckle. It's not going to do the things that it did. So I feel like that was probably the biggest thing, was just trusting my knee again, which just comes with time. And with every time I'd put my foot down and I'd be like, oh, okay, it's good. It's fine. And then I'd do it again. Oh, okay, it's good. It's good. And then after every day I would do that. Oh, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. And then it would just get better until I'm finally like, oh yeah, I can put my foot down. I can do whatever, and my knee is going to take it. So that was, that's probably the most that I can say, the most that I can help, is that trust that if your therapists and everybody, if they believe that you're good to go, then most likely you're good to go. And just I would still take it easy, obviously, getting back into it. But like after a few weeks, after a month of back on the bike, you're pretty good. I would say you'll be pretty good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Andrea has a few things she'd like to share, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Awesome. Hey, Austin, it was so great getting to know you and listening to your story. And I wrote down a lot of notes because that's what I do. I'm an educator, right? And a counselor. But what really stands out to me is this sport is not defining you. And a lot of the stories that we hear from a lot of writers is, what is their identity when things change? You're actually defining the sport. And I'm just so excited about that, because if the sport defines you, it's very limiting. The beliefs are very limiting. So I love that you have all this support behind you and that you're sharing that with our community. It means a lot to us. So I really want to thank you for that.
Yeah, that was that's what, that was a huge thing, was that not that I've learned is not to base my self-worth based on my results on the track.
Yes.
It's not, my self-worth is more than my my self-worth is more than my results on the track. Basically, it's not just about that. That is important, and that's one of the most important things in my life, is riding dirt bikes, but that's not the only thing in life. There's a lot more other things in life, and I can't base my self-worth on results, because I'm not going to win every race, and I don't want to I don't want to just think that I'm trash when I get second, or when I am hurt right now. There's no reason to just think that I'm a terrible human, or that I'm a failure, or that I'm the worst, because all the things that I've told myself in the past, I've told myself that on this injury. But there's no need to think those things, because there's more than just riding dirt bikes, and there's more than just, I'm sure everybody has a sport or has something that they're, if it's not a sport, maybe it's work, maybe it's whatever, but there's more than just that. There's more than just the one thing, that's kind of what I've had to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And sharing that lesson is so important for our community. So thank you again. And I also want to remind everybody that's listening, everybody that's here tonight, that in March, Dean Wilson will be joining us on Breaking the Stigma and sharing his story. So if you would like to be have a link directly sent to you, just DM Road to Recovery, and we'll get that out to you soon. And we are excited to continue this journey with everybody. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Thanks.
I just have one last thing. Austin, early on in this conversation, you mentioned the importance of some of the feedback you got from a lot of your followers. One in particular that said, injury after injury is they've learned from that just as much as they've learned from who you are as, the motocross racer that you are. And I think right now, you said you're not just a motocross racer. There's more to you than that, but you're also important to these kids. And when you said earlier on that he DM'd you and, you know, you reminded yourself that you needed to get back to him. I think one of the best things you could consider right now while you're not racing is to reach out and let him know that. And I will guarantee you that will make a world of difference as to how people look at you, more as a winner for that than, you know, and maybe anything else that you've done.
Exactly. That's what I guess if like I said, if there is a reason behind this thing, that's it. That's what I've realized is that, you know, maybe for me anyway, maybe that being a winner and being a champion and being the best that I can be at this sport isn't solely based around, you know, the amount of wins and the amount of championships that I have. Maybe like that's the thing is, as dirt bike racer, like I didn't think that I was, I don't know if you would say worthy, but I didn't think that I was like that these kids should be looking up to me if I'm not winning. Like I need to win, and then okay, then they could say, oh, I want to be like you because you're a winner. You know, that's kind of just how I think, at least. And to have kids saying, look, this means they're basing their decisions in life based on my decisions, my decisions for myself, and just people observing my decisions, these kids observing my decisions. It's having such an impact on their life that it's altering how they attack life and how they make their decisions. I didn't know that. Like that's I didn't know that stuff. Like I didn't know that this was what the me dealing with injuries and seeing me just come back, even just show up at the races, no matter the result, would make a big enough difference to kids like that. Like that's what that message just kind of put into perspective for me from that kid, was just like, look, like I know to you, coming back from an injury is nothing. If you come back and get a fifth, you're going to be mad. But you coming back from the injury period is what motivates so many people. That I am going to be, I didn't think that. Like I didn't think that maybe I didn't think that I was worthy of that, or that I should be you know, praised for that, because, you know, I did it to myself. You know, I got hurt, so, you know, I got to deal with things that I cause or that I'm, you know, a part of. So that's what, yeah, that helped a lot. That was a huge thing, and that's something that I will definitely always think about now, is that, you know, that whether or not I win, I still could be making a difference in people's lives, which is probably
a difference that'll go on, that'll go on long after your racing.
Yeah,
career.
exactly. That's a bigger, probably a bigger and more important thing than winning a championship. You know, that's the most important thing to me, like that I want to do. But hearing that kid tell me that, like that was heavy. Like that was a heavy thing. Like that's why I had like kind of broke down after that, because I was like, that was a heavy thing to take and to think about. Is on I mean, now that I think about it, it makes me, you know, happy that like I can still have a positive effect on people's lives, even if I'm not winning every race. You know, maybe to some kids I have more of an effect on their life by going through these struggles and continuing to come back and back. So yeah, that was a good thing. And I am going to reach out to that kid. I am going to do that. So I know that'll make his day. And honestly, that'll probably make mine too.
Very good.
I love that. And I'm glad that you're getting the clarity that you are worth so much, and that you are such, you know, this person that everyone looks up to. And I can say firsthand, my son looks up to you. He got a picture of you. You like didn't even know that you were in the picture, but he was like stalker creepy, taking a picture of you in the pits a couple of years ago. And he thinks that you're like one of the greatest people on earth. So just know that you are setting some huge examples. Kids look up to you. Your peers look up to you. we are here supporting you. And there's a great comment that I want to read out loud if you didn't see it in the chat from Brenda. It says, actions speak louder than words. Austin is setting such a valuable example because he's authentic and genuine. And I completely agree with that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad. No, I'm really glad that I did this. I'm really glad I talked to you guys, and I enjoy talking about this stuff because I mean, I feel like it helps even me and maybe other people on this call. Like, I just hope that it can help people, I guess. And it definitely, I think it helps me just talking about things. It's always healthy to talk about things, I think. So even things you don't want to talk about, sometimes it's necessary and healthy to talk about them. So I have enjoyed this call with you guys, and I hope that it, can help some people.
Well, thank you so much, Austin. And thank you again for being so vulnerable and talking about these things that are very difficult to talk about. So we appreciate it. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we hope to see you next month for our next meeting. Thank you again, Austin.
Thanks, Austin.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.